Three of my guests in the studio will be joined by the very last person shortly. And with me, from my extreme right, is Abdul Malik Kweku Baku Jr., a regular panelist. He is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Next to him is Abi Abraham Amalba. He is a legal practitioner and is with the NDC's legal team. Also, Ni Ayikwe Otu, the former Attorney General and a legal practitioner. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Great. So, first of all, we are looking at the NPP and its troubles, and some suggest that the NPP doesn't seem to be ready for power at all because it's in a self-destruct mode, fighting among itself and leaving what Akufo-Addo is supposed to have proclaimed, that they should look now forward to their bigger enemy or foe, so to speak. Now, I just want to read a few things, and then I'll start with the Honorable Niaiko too with my very first question. Now, you know that on Sunday, the NPP held its Superdelegates conference, and the Superdelegates conference was supposed to prune down the 7 contestants to 5. Well, he was a critical part of those who oversaw that particular process. In the end, Nana Akufo-Addo managed to pull 80.78% of the votes, and the rest of them, all their votes put together, give them 19.22%. This is how My Joy Online reported it, that the two-time presidential candidate of the opposition New Patriotic Party, Nana Akufo-Addo, has secured an emphatic win. You'll hear subsequently also Nana Akufo-Addo himself saying that he secured an emphatic and overwhelming win. Has secured an emphatic win at the Superdelegates conference of the party. Mr. Akufo-Addo received an overwhelming endorsement from special delegates of the NPP in the Sunday votes. How did it go? This is how it went. The election was to prune down the number of the flag-bearer aspirants to 5, who will then go on to the second stage of the process to choose a presidential candidate for the opposition party. Out of the 740 ballot cast, Nana-Addo polled 598 votes, representing 80.78%, with his closest contender, Kyerematen, obtaining a paltry tally of 59 votes, representing 7.98%. Addo and second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Gate, both obtained 22 votes each, which is 2.98% of the total votes cast, while Osei Ameyao managed 16 votes, which is 2.17% to pick up the ticket for the October 18 National Delegates Conference. Former Information Minister Stephen Asamoah Boateng got 13 votes, and former Trade Minister Dr. Kofi Konadu-Apreku got 10 votes. They have dropped out of the race with 1.76% of the votes and 1.35% respectively. Now, in the wake of this announcement, we have heard a lot of things that appear to be going on. But before that, you were part of those who supervised this process. How did it go?
Well, thank you. I think it went well, generally in the Accra Salem school where I was. I'm not aware, I can't recall any serious incidents of intimidation, if you like, or any attempt at preventing anybody from voting. I made it clear on a particular incident where one of the delegates wanted to vote by way of proxy because his name was not on the proxy list, and the letter he brought, appeared not to have been processed at the secretariat. There was no way we could permit him to vote. Beyond that, everything went well, and I believe that was the only what they call challenge, if you like, from the media that they wanted to report on, and it was all over the place that somebody was being, prevented from voting, which was clearly not the case at all. So on balance, I think that, and we had a lot of police presence, just as we did in Tamale. They were all over the place to maintain law and order, but we were very liberal in allowing people to enter. I know party people who wanted to enter, although I sat at the gate and I had accreditation, people who came in without accreditation, I allowed them to go in, provided they were going to behave themselves. And I think they did that. So largely, I think, speaking for myself in Accra and at the Salem School Park, I think it went very well.
Right. Mentioning Tamale, you definitely would have heard that there was a little, some small problem there, some small problem of sort, because one delegate who voted decided to show his ballot, revealing the particular person he had voted for, which appears to be in contravention of the Constitution, which gives them which says this is a secret ballot.
Well, I don't think that only happened even in Tamale. I hear it also happened at the headquarters, and people are trying to defend it. I would not. I mean, a secret ballot is a secret ballot. There's no way you go and vote and show it to people that this is what I've done. These are the things that sometimes lead to unnecessary fractions and divisions. Just cast your vote, go away, at the appropriate time will come, do the sorting, count it, and declare whoever is the winner. So why do you want to show it to people? Because campaigning, as far as the rules are concerned, ends the day before the elections. So what are you doing? Are you still campaigning by showing it to people and telling them that this is the way I voted, so please follow me and let's go and vote that way? It is wrong. I would not try to defend that thing. I think that if it is done openly at a national election, we would not like it. So why do we want to start it in our backyard and tell us that it's okay? It is not okay. For me, it is wrong. Nobody should do that, and it should not happen if we have to go to the 18th October elections. Nobody should vote and show it to anybody. Okay. It should be secret.
Thank you. Now, let's watch a bit of the footage of the declaration after the whole vote was over. I understand that's not ready yet. Now, Ebi, what do you say about the process? You must have admired it from, afar.
I must have observed it from afar, but not
admired the
process from afar. As you rightly indicated, there were some little infractions. I saw Sir John at the party headquarters vote and raised his ballot to show to the whole world that he voted for Nana Akufo-Addo. That for me was despicable. That for me does not, as it were, speak well of a party executive who also once presided over a similar exercise. I think that, broadly speaking,
some have asked the question. It's a secret ballot, and you are supposed to make it secret as an individual. But if you decide not to make it a secret ballot, that's your business.
No, it has been imposed on you that it's a secret ballot. It's nowhere, I can't find, unless you draw my attention to a provision that says that, but the individual may decide to raise it up as Sir John has raised it up to show to everybody.
So that in the national elections, if I went to vote for a particular candidate, are you saying that I'm prohibited by law not to show anybody that this is who I voted for?
Clearly.
Clearly. I see.
Yes, because it's an imposition on you. That is a secret vote. And so there's no option for you to show it to anybody. You have breached the rules.
Okay.
So those who are saying that it is at the behest of the individual to decide whether to show or not, I want them to show me the provision of the law that says that you are at liberty, however, to show. But you see, leading up to this exercise, you saw all kinds of infractions. You saw all kinds of activities that showed that the MPP was not ready to go by its own rules. You saw people lining up, MPs, those who have, according to their own regulations and rules, guiding this process, have been barred from openly declaring for a particular candidate, were all along declaring and making nonsense of their own regulations. Recently, just 2 days ago, just yesterday, you saw also the issue of the chairman of the MPP in the Northern Region openly saying that they were going to investigate to find out those who voted for Alan Kyerematen. The question to ask is, since when has it become an offense to vote for a different presidential candidate or a person who is contesting? I think that it appears at this point the MPP lacks leadership. And because of that, everybody is doing what he thinks he deems fit. You look at the elections, you notice that there are machinations and scheming to ensure that Nana Akufo-Addo wins. Why would this happen? Why would there be an interest to ensure that then Nana Akufo-Addo wins? Just yesterday as well, party executives, national executives, went round the other candidates, tried to put pressure on them not to stand. This is a party that claims to be democratic.
Okay, we'll get to those details.
That claims that it has the democratic credentials.
We'll get to those details. We wanted your
initial comments.
Your initial comments on the overall process of the voting itself on Sunday. Now we have been joined by George Lowe, who is MP for North Dai. Correct? Thank you very much.
You cannot get that one wrong.
Okay, he's also a private legal practitioner. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good to have you. Now, Kuku, what do you say about the general conduct of the polls itself?
Well, the General Secretary of the NPP, I heard him telling the whole world that the assessment of the situation, the process, was largely peaceful, well conducted, and smooth sailing. He praised the Electoral Commission, the police, and themselves for having collaborated effectively to put out that kind of process. And that's the bloody truth. An assessment of all the media reports showed that this was a process that was largely peaceful and smooth sailing. But as indicated, there were infractions here and there. There were some slippages here and there. I'm not too sure whether one can exaggerate those infractions or multiply them by force. Do your own crude mathematics and seek to use that to actually distort the peaceful essence of that matter. That's propagandist. And actually, I think it should be ignored. See, the point really is this, and as you know, I'm not a legal mind, but I try very hard. It's true. In the party's constitution, I think it is obvious that vote or the ballot is to be secret. It's obvious. I suspect even on the national level, that's how it's captured.
Right.
Ideally, that's what I think anybody should do in terms of discipline and in terms of abiding by the dictates of the party constitution and the national constitution. So those who voted, and the media reports, I didn't see any, but I heard about Sir John, I heard about Cabo, and indeed I heard about the chairman too. I have not heard any attempt to refute this particular report. So as we speak, whilst I'm not an eyewitness, at least having read it, these three names came up prominently as people who may have committed that infringement. Not good enough and ought not to be encouraged in terms of our politics. But you and Amaliba went through a certain interaction right now, and that's where I want my education or information. What is the sanction? Is there?
I'm not aware of any.
Aha.
Yes, I was asking the question bearing in mind that elsewhere where they do secret ballots, there are exit polls, and people proudly announce who they voted for.
Well, that is what what I took from the interaction you and Amaliba had, that whilst it's not a good practice, and whilst the constitution of the party and the nation appears to say don't do it, I've been searching for a provision that imposes a sanction, and I don't see it. And because I don't see that, unless it's somewhere out there, and those who know may be able to come to our aid, especially when we have a former Attorney General here, I'm sure he may help me here.
He's also led a lot of the parliamentary contest in the courts.
Yes.
So I'm sure he will.
I mean, with his wealth of experience, I would defer to him. But the point I'm making is that as we speak, I am unable to locate any provision in the law or within the party's constitution that imposes a sanction. And that is why I think that it's a gray area. But whatever it is not a good practice.
Right.
Let me make my position very clear on that.
Thank you very much, Abdul Malik. If you may assist us immediately, are you aware of any sanctions if you decide to show your ballot, which is supposed to be secret?
I may have to look at the representation of the people's law again. I'm trying to search for it.
Right.
But the point is that a secret ballot is a secret ballot. But when we are doing exit polls, I don't think everybody is talking. Yeah, you just take a sample.
Right.
After they have voted secretly and they come out, then people outside try to find out how they voted. And you are not doing it for everybody, just a kind of sample so you can project into the future.
That's right.
I don't think that that is the practice, that when they went inside, they showed how they voted. It was when they came out.
Right.
That after some, those things can be done.
Thank you. George, what do you say? How did you observe the whole process?
Well, let me say good morning to our cherished viewers and listeners. And let me just say that, like Kweku said, largely, we did not do constituency by constituency observation, but largely, well, the General Secretary, who is supposed to be in charge of the process, thinks that they did fairly well. In spite of the fact that, we heard that some things that were not properly seated within the electoral system did happen. But indeed, in fairness to the NPP, if you got, it was more like a national, a semi-national election, if you want to put it that way. And it's a human institution, so if 1 or 2 or 3 infractions happened, as we were made to believe per the media reports, they may be unfortunate, but we should expect that since it's a race, people will want to play the advantage to the disadvantage of other constituents. So basically, I will not have enough grounds to say that the whole process was a sham. But just suffice it to say that, well, it's an election, and so far, they think that they've done well. It's a house matter, in-house matter. So if the person building his house thinks the house is beautiful, who am I? The only interesting part is that the General Secretary of the party went ahead to commend and congratulate profusely the Electoral Commission. Some of us were taken aback due to the fact that not too long ago, they saw everything wrong with the work of the Electoral Commission. So if today the MPP thinks the Electoral Commission is super, so be it. We are happy.
All right, that's interesting. That's interesting. You're here.
Not campaigning, I believe, during voting date or at the voting centers.
Right.
Yes. Showing the ballot after you voted maybe could be misconstrued, or construed rather, not mis, as a form of voting, campaigning. That I think is, but it's still not specific to secrecy of the ballot, except that I'm seeing a certain overlapping.
Right.
The lawyers can explain that better.
Okay.
I'm looking at that law, section 24, prohibition of disclosure of votes. A person who has voted in an election shall not be required to state for whom he has voted in any proceedings questioning even the election.
Shall not be required.
You will not even
but in
ask
this
him
case,
to
he
tell
hadn't
you.
been required. He was showing it.
No, it goes beyond. In other words,
That's more serious.
Even when you are in a court where you are fighting over the election results,
Yeah.
you shall not be required to show even how you voted.
Yes, and I'm saying those who showed, those who have been told showed, were not required to do so. They did so on by themselves. Now, what
But
is
you
the
admit
sanction?
that it's a bad practice.
That's a different.
We shouldn't condone it.
Right.
At all.
The law is that the voting shall be by secret.
Yes.
And that even when there is a case in court, you shall not be required to tell us how you voted.
Yes, but what's the
Again,
sanction?
as I made, the fact that there are no sanctions does not mean that you don't have to respect the law.
No, I agree. But
That
if you don't
this is
respect the law, you ought to be
because
punished.
there is no sanction, so you ought not to respect
But if you
it.
don't respect the law, consequently, you must be punished.
Okay.
I agree.
Thank
but
you.
assuming there is no such sanction,
Right.
does it mean that you should be?
No, I'm
should
with you.
not be
In
law
principle, I'm
abiding?
with you. I don't want us
Okay.
to banter over this.
Thank
but
you.
in principle,
Thank
I'm
you.
with you.
Thank you very
But-
much.
in
Thank you very much. Let's go to the MPP. Let's go to the MPP headquarters briefly.
Candidate number 1, Kofi Kunadu Apreku, had 10 votes. Candidate number 2, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, had 13 votes. Candidate number 3, Francis Adainimo, had 22 votes. Candidate number 4, Kofi Osei Ameyao, had 16 votes. Candidate number 5, Alan John Kyerematen, had 59 votes. Candidate number 6, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, had 598 votes. Candidate number 7, Joe Gatti, had 22. And so I'll give you the percentages. I'll give you the percentages in the ranking order. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had 80.81%. Alan Kyerematen had 7.97%. Francis Adainimo had 2.97%. Joe Gatti, 2.97%. Stephen Asamoah Boateng, 1.75%. And Dr. Kofi Konadu Apraku, 1.35%. So as per our constitution, the two who are out for the remainder of the contest are Dr. Kofi Konadu Apraku and Stephen Asamoah Boateng. So, as our constitution determines for us, the 5 that are allowed to continue for the contest, the main contest, are Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Alan Kyerematen, Francis Adainimo, Joe Gatti, and Kofi Osei Ameyao. Thank you very much for your patience.
Right. Briefly, there are some who are surprised at the performance of Adainimo. Are you equally surprised?
Oh, sure. I mean, in terms of his standing in the party, I think that is only an MP. He's not tried to do national, if you like, work for the party itself. So most people felt that perhaps he just wanted to test his popularity.
He came third, right?
And then he rather did very well. He tied with Joe Gatti, you know, on the same number of votes. So I think that everybody is pretty well surprised compared with the two that are getting out. Those who have been former ministers of state, people who have worked for the party, people who have been, you know, are well known.
But what do you say? Whilst you know, analysts say that he did remarkably well, they also say that it appears that Kofi Konadu Apraku may have been punished for waging a campaign against Nana Addo.
It's quite possible. You will get there, but you need to listen to the ground. And if you are not careful, you know, there are a few things that you might say which may be misinterpreted, you know, and might lead to some of these things happening, you know. But because if the person is seen as an obvious choice, and then especially where you were one time his manager, you know, and again you were in charge of security and all that, you know, no matter how the issues to you appear, you know, one would have thought that you would not be seen to be stabbing him at the back, because that is how some people saw it. It immediately came out and started analyzing the previous votes. You know, you saw all kinds of attacks on him, you know. So
Dallas, you have a neutral role that you played on that day, and you may be expected also as an elder of the party. But did you expect that Nana Addo will beat Alan that much?
Well, that's why I'm saying that you should also listen to the ground. You know, if all parliamentarians should go and declare their votes, their support, and say that this is how we are going to vote, you know, and across the divide, you hear that there have been some mock elections outside, and everywhere he had 100%, the rest had zeros and all that. You know, that should give you
exercises
some point,
that you disapproved.
You know. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they were all wrong, but that is how they decided to do it. And in politics, you know, we all need the votes of delegates. You don't have to forget that. If I decide to contest elections one day, I would need the votes of these delegates. And therefore, as you do your analysis, you have to bear that at the back of your mind, that if you are not careful, you may be taken to have been, let me use the word, insulted their intelligence.
Okay.
And that may affect you in the future.
I see.
You know, so political maturity should tell you that sometimes, you know, you should be careful how you do the analysis. And we should have two ways of doing analysis: the public analysis and then the private one, which can be done indoors.
Right. Judge, the spokesperson for Alan Kyerematen admits, and he says, we knew Nana would win, would lead, but not like this. They are surprised that Alan could only manage a little over 50.
Thank you. Samson, I get a bit worried when we are even doing the analysis the way we are doing the analysis. I think that we are all pretending as though NPP has held its delegates conference. No, the NPP has not held its delegates conference. So the results of this...
It has held its Superdelegates
the results of the so-called Superdelegates conference, as they choose to call it. God, I think that the larger number should be super, but if the smaller number is super, by NPP definition, I'm not too sure, but they have chosen to call it a super.
Special electoral college.
Okay.
This is the media.
Well, whatever. Yes. So I am saying that.
Right.
What was the rationale of that exercise? The rationale of that exercise was not to say that who should lead the party.
That's right.
The rationale of that exercise was to say that how many people are we allowing to be able to stand for the opportunity to lead our party. So we are only in class 1. We haven't even gotten to the end of the process. And we are jumping over ourselves as though, you know, one person has emerged a candidate. No. I think that it is wrong, by any research, whatever, to use the analysis as we have it. Yes, 80% of the people who were chosen to go and endorse people who should run think that they want Nana to be in the race. That is what it means for me. And that is what it should mean for everybody, because that is the rationale and the essence of that exercise. So first and foremost, for people to be surprised, I don't think so. I think that people have gone out there to say who they think should be in the first five, so that they will have the opportunity to go out there and face the 140-something thousand people. Okay. So let's put it in that perspective.
Correct.
Yeah, that is it.
Kwaku, is that not a clear, you know, fair point that he's making, which is actually the point that should reflect the record, that having the 800 delegates was not meant to determine who should lead the party, but simply to prune them down. And that those to determine who should lead the party, that will be 140,000 delegates.
Yes.
So all of this analysis is neither here nor there.
No, there's nothing wrong with analysis. People are entitled to make those analyses. It's freedom of speech, freedom of analysis. Has the party indicated that it has adopted a policy that will short-circuit the process and leave it at the Special Delegates College? Has the party done so?
No.
No. So what's the big deal? The process is ongoing. There are few people who have come out, some elders of the party, some members of the party, who are making appeals, pleas. They don't amount to orders. They are not directives.
Some of the candidates have on their own conceded that we don't want to move forward.
And is that unconstitutional? Does it hint or smell of unconstitutionality?
They're doing it out of their own free volition.
No big deal. I think that there's a certain deliberate exaggeration and, if you like, distortion of the calls and appeals and the pleas for people to step aside. There's no big deal. Nobody is forcing anybody, unless you are saying they should impose on themselves a code of silence, not to express their opinions. These are opinions. These are pleas. These are appeals. They mean nothing relative to the party's constitution. You cannot enforce them. And in a big party like that, you expect people to speak their minds anyhow, anytime. The party as a party, its leadership, its the institutions, the bodies that manage the party and drive the party, have not sat to consider even any of those things, because they are not worthy of consideration in terms of the constitutional import. It's not happened. Okay? Interestingly, Mr. Kyerematen has announced, I am going, in spite of all the pleas and appeals. That tells you those pleas and appeals have no serious effect constitutionally. Some say it amounts to intimidation. I'm surprised. Look, Nana Ohininto, before the day of the election, predicted tsunami. Didn't he? Now you are telling me that he says that they knew Nana was going to win. Win by tsunami? They knew they were going to win because they were on the ground. They had met the delegates, the superdelegates as it were, and had convinced them, and they had done their calculations. And he knew that they were going to win, and it was going to be by a tsunami. Please, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't see this as a big deal at all. They are a source of irritation, if you like. Yeah. Irritation is not intimidation. Intimidation does not constitute a constitutional sanction or injunction on you. You are liberty to ignore it. And if you like, treat it with contempt.
Abi, if you set for yourself that we have two methods by which we are going to choose who should lead us when we have more than 5 aspirants, and you finish with the first one, is the Allen team not right in saying it is wrong for anybody to even suggest to him to step down?
Samson, let me say that
you have finished one part of the process. There's another one to go through, and that's what your constitution says. This one was only meant to prune them down to 5.
Yes,
that is the 5 that is supposed to go into the contest.
Yes, but he hasn't been stopped.
Like George Lowe indicated, what is the rationale for the first election that took place? Was it to come out with an outright winner?
No.
It was to prune down the number to 5. So, categorically, I can sit here and say there are 5 winners. And there are. Now we are moving to the next stage, which stage is a bigger platform. I agree that those who voted and Nana came tops can go back and influence the others. But yet again, it doesn't take away the fact that that electoral college is larger and bigger than what voted for Nana, and he became the leader in the 5 groups. But you see, I'm not surprised. Anybody who is a watcher of the MPP politics, I'm not surprised the vote that Nana had. Because, look, whatever kind of election, call it superdelegates, confederation, federation elections, Nana would win. So, for me, Nana's winning is not surprising, because Nana had long before today positioned himself to take the benefits of what is happening now. And when we get there, I will let you know that Nana had long ago prepared himself that because he will want to run again, he was able to hoodwink the whole MPP machinery to say that the elections were rigged. So he made himself relevant in the equation.
The National Council.
You understand? So he made himself relevant to the present day. And so now they are looking at Nana as somebody who won the last elections and we need to repeat him. But if they had looked at him as somebody who lost the elections, like Professor Buzier lost the elections against Rawlings, and for that matter we should change him.
Buzier?
Edubwine. Yeah. Edubwine lost against Rawlings, and for that matter we need to change him. And the same argument put by Nana Akufo-Addo against President Kufuor, that he lost against Rawlings, so we should change him. Nana Akufo-Addo will not be in the race today. But he made it enticing that, look, I did not lose the elections, so repeat me and I'll now win it for you. So he had prepared himself long before today.
I think that there's the need to do some quick reaction to what my friend has said. We're looking at a candidate who, in the opinion of most of the delegates, has been marketed sufficiently, that there's no need for us to bring in a new candidate. These are some of the logic they are using. That he's gone twice. Now, looking at his age at 72, when the election, at 70, when the elections come, in 2016 will be 72, there's no way he can also go again. The third argument, or the fourth, being that he may be 3 times lucky, because other people went more than once, especially Professor Atta Mills also won on the 3rd occasion. So for them, this is his time. These are the arguments. It is not, again, the fact that in both 2008 and 2012, the difference between the winner and himself were largely, very small, differences, such that they say that putting all these things together, this is his time. In fact, people ask the question, do you think that in 2020, he will even make the attempt of coming again?
The analysis following the outcome may not be intended. Does it send a signal to the party, particularly those of you who are in charge of its constitution and legal processes, that there may be a need to amend this particular process so that in future, one candidate is not, disadvantaged because of the outcome of an electoral college?
Oh, I don't think you can do that. Rather, we took the experience of the 17 aspirants to bring about this amendment,
right?
Prune it to 5. People don't understand it, but those who went to the ground, who contested the election, were saying that there was the issue of overcrowding. You had 17 people going to the same constituencies and regional delegates talking to them, so that you got to a place and let's say you had about 10 people waiting to talk. That is a case of overcrowding. When would you finish your presentation for another one to come and all that? So to allow the people to do their campaign, let us reduce the number to about 5.
I'm talking about the method of reducing, which has produced an outcome which is leading to an analysis which may not be intended, because you would admit that you cannot stop the analysis, and the analysis go to the advantage of one candidate.
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying that we had a problem, and we thought by this kind of amendment we will solve the issue or cure the effect. But unfortunately, you see, why people still say they want to contest is that obviously 700 and something compared with 140,000, that is a very small number. How can 700 people determine the fate of everybody when indeed those mandated to do the work is as high as 140,000? But I'm saying to them that also listen to the ground. If this is the way the wind is blowing, this is what they want to do, give him his opportunity. Let him do it, as it were, for the last time. Because he go 3 times, can you ever say, I want to go again? In our language, we always say, I'm sure it's in all languages.
The 800-member electoral college are supposed to reflect the 140,000 delegates.
Yes.
Is that not the case?
Yes.
So,
not necessarily. From what we have seen, I'm saying that if you listen to the ground and follow the arguments leading to this election, it is not likely that anything will change in October. And therefore, that analysis ought not to be done in these circumstances.
Right.
Perhaps some
just hold on briefly. I want George, look at it. If you feel maybe there's need to tweak this particular method again because of the outcome and the analysis that follow, so that we know that the 800 delegates who form the electoral college, they say, we have been told to vote this way. So we are not actually exercising, we are exercising the mandate of the people who will subsequently vote in the Congress itself. So doesn't it affect disadvantageously, unfairly, disadvantage one person?
For me, it's very amusing if anybody did their analysis. And that's the point I made, and I think that Kweku took it out of context. I am not saying people cannot express their opinion. Go ahead and express your opinion. I'm saying that the reality on the ground. In 2008, in fact, in 2000 elections, NDC had majority in parliament. It means that the people at the time had the people that were representing them were more than far in excess of, but we lost the elections. What does that tell you? It tells you that momentarily, at any point in time, people who really want to exercise their franchise exercise the way they want. As for the fact that because you have majority in parliament, it's like saying in this case that because a lot of MPs supported a particular candidate, it means that when they go on the ground, all the people in their constituencies who have votes or delegates from their constituencies will also follow suit. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't sit. The reality on the ground is that, indeed, if you look at what has happened in the NPP, it's very intriguing, and I think that it is a good exercise for any political watcher. That indeed, all those who went and trumpeted that, look, vote for me because Nana Addo wants to work with me, they lost. The Jakes of this world, the Sir Jones of this world, they lost at the National Delegates Congress, where a lot of people went to vote. But flip side, Nana Addo, they need endorsement of 5 people, and Nana Addo got massive endorsement. So you can really not say, and I don't agree with my senior when he says that just between September and October nothing will change. I can assure him that we may see some change that we have never anticipated, because electorates, delegates have gotten more sophisticated. And if you've been part of the process before, he has contested for parliament, he's won and he's lost. So you should know that as for, and Sir John, somebody told me yesterday that since he was born and he started listening to Sir John has spoken only one truth. And that truth is that fear delegates. Nobody should sit here and think that what 700 or 800 people went to do, 140,000 are likely.
What they do,
yes,
and declare that they were doing it on behalf of.
Nobody should go out there and deceive him, he or herself, that because we went, it will work for us. When I was contesting for parliament, I can use myself. When I was contesting for parliament, at least I can say then that 80% of my executives who were supposed to be acting on the constituents did not think that this was my time. But I won my primaries. What does it tell you? It tells you that, look, all this issue of party elder and party this and party that doesn't necessarily translate to the realities on the ground. It may. I'm not saying that necessarily. I choose my words carefully. Doesn't necessarily translate to what is on the ground. Right. So that is why I'm saying that for us, let's take it one at a time. People have gone to endorse 5. Let's leave the 5. I'm not saying that nobody can say that because they're not doing.
In fact, now we have only 4 because one is back.
So now that 4 is going, let's see the way it plays out. I think that we are jumping too early. Like Apreku said of himself some time ago, said, I picked too early. I think that we are all picking too early. Let's allow October, is it October 18th?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, let October 18th come. Then everybody will see their smoothness level.
I think something is important.
We should understand those things. And we should understand that, you see, the dynamics are very complex.
Okay.
You see, it is now, people will come out and say all sorts of things because it's become impossible for you to say anything contrary to supporting an Addo in the MPP. It is clear. People have been beaten. People have been. All sorts of things that happen to people because they're taking a contrary view. And that, for me, would make the silent majority keep quiet until that day.
Okay.
That is what I think.
What we are doing here is a news analysis. You know, we're trying to analyze what the issues have been. So we are entitled to talk about it. Those of us who are within the party, and we know some of the delegates, we have some kind of advantage when we tell you that we've listened and we know the way they behave. I know what I'm saying. They know the way they behave. We know the way
now wait. Kweku, do you think that going in on October 18 is good to help Alan gain a little leverage, or that's the purpose for which he's doing it, because he didn't expect to lose by this margin?
Well, let's just be fair to Alan and try and interrogate what his mindset is, and at least we can be able to do that based on the things that his spokespersons and others who support him are saying, some of which I think has been articulated on this table. Here we are, nearly 800 superdelegates vote. Then you have the next line being 144,000 or so. On the basis of raw statistics, raw mathematics, he's entitled to the view that, look, this is not representative, the 800 is not exactly representative of the 144,000. Statistically and mathematically, he's entitled to do so. And in any case, he's a party guy. He has his strategy that he thinks is going to adopt for the next phase, which may not be exactly the same as the first phase. So, and he knows the target groups that he has to connect. So he's entitled to make that judgment. And then, of course, there are other issues, like if he beats a retreat now, if he surrenders midstream, what would be the implications? How would people perceive him? Okay, Alan and Joe Gatti are not the same. In terms of the party's dynamics, in terms of their trajectory, in terms of their weight and all that, they are not the same.
Right.
So whilst Joe can retreat and surrender midstream and get praises, in terms of Alan, it will not be the same effect. His might be seen even as a cowardly retreat and surrender. So there are two different personalities and political, if you like, figures. In that sense, I think Alan is entitled to go the full haul and try and see if he cannot make a certain impact. If you ask me whether I think he would win, I would say no, I don't think so, based on my own analysis of the situation. So maybe the idea is to maximize what he achieved, the abysmal results of the first step, which it's a bit exclusive, and make sure that, okay, because it is said that, oh, he's a grassroots man. His weight lies with the grassroots and things. Yeah. Why I think he wouldn't win, based on what I see now, you see, forget the raw statistics, forget the raw mathematics. In terms of party formation and party structure, those who voted in the superdelegates are not people you can discard when it comes to their influence and effect on the party. I'm here talking of the domino effect. Check those who voted at the Super Congress, at the Superdelegate, Special Delegates College. Perhaps one should be precise with the terminology, nomenclature. So they have influence. They are not people who are disconnected or detached from the party structure. And that is what I think will not help the Alan cause. My brother Lou is talking about 2000 election, and a very interesting analogy about how many seats the NDC had in parliament. Quite an interesting one. I hadn't thought of that. But that representation, I think, was generated in 1996 elections. By 2000, we had gone 4 years. A lot had happened on the political, social, economic front. I'm not too sure that we can mechanically, translate or transmit that into the analysis we are making here between the super delegates, which happened August 31st, and the national one, which is going to happen October 18th, even in terms of time and space and the issues at stake. I'm not too sure if the analogy is perfect, but whatever it is, was an interesting thing. Now, the Tamale Congress, which he also used, and it's true, look at the numbers there too were small. But see, those who won at Tamale, in spite of the small numbers, thought that meant they are taking over the party. And I assumed that could reflect in the presidential primaries, both phases. But you see that it didn't happen. And it's because the Tamale Congress, look, check the mathematics carefully. Some of those who voted Afoko and Kobna Japan were Nana people. It wasn't that cast in the compartments that people thought it was. And in terms of the chairmanship too, there were those who were splitting votes. Okay? So I kept on cautioning people who thought that, look, the Tamale results necessarily will reflect in the presidential primaries, both phases. Phase 1 has proved that was a fallacy. Phase 2 will consolidate that point. Maybe. Oh, it would. It's obvious. It's obvious. But my view was that Alan should not step out of the race because of his political the character, his political profile. It's such that a retreat and a surrender, I think, would have been worse.
Okay, so you don't think that not going in will do him good?
He shouldn't have joined the race at all if that was the case from day one. But once he joined and became the principal challenger to the lead contender, as we now know, after this results, which was quite abysmal to all of them, all the other 6, was abysmal. Regardless of the fact that this is a limited framework, these are influential elements of the party. Don't joke with it. National Council members, founding members, a constituency chair, regional chairman, and all those are influential members of the party. They drive the party. They are not people to underestimate.
And
if you can't win their hearts and minds at this material moment, you have a huge deficit to overcome.